Hey everyone, it's C-Stan here. Today we're looking at another interesting combo deck that relies on Emery. So Emery, you can play her during any action window, and you do so by discarding the top 3 cards of your deck to put Emery into play from your hand, under any player's control. Then, if any of the discarded cards have the Tactics, Lore, or Leadership Sphere, discard Emery. So the idea of this combo is to have a deck that doesn't really have any or many spirit cards, so that when you play Emery, she gets discarded. And you combine that with the Valor action on Rallying Cry. Until the end of the phase, add each ally that leaves play to its owner's hand instead of placing it in the discard pile. So you play Emery, discard the top 3 cards, and since they won't all be spirit, you'll have to discard her. However, she'll just come right back to your hand because of Rallying Cry, and then you can play her again. And you can do so over and over and over until your whole deck is discarded. Now that in itself isn't really game breaking, but we can turn that into something very powerful using a second deck. So this is a 2-player combo, and the second deck is actually built with almost every card in the game. So it has all the leadership, tactics, and lore cards, and only a couple spirit cards, mainly the ones for recycling cards in your discard pile, because we want to limit the chance of ever hitting 3 spirit cards with Emery. Okay, so I've gone ahead and loaded the decks, and also loaded Nightmare Steward Sphere. The quest isn't too important. This combo does take maybe 2 or 3 turns to set up, so as long as it doesn't completely crush you before then you'll be able to get the combo off. I'm not sure if I'll actually end up finishing the quest. I think maybe I'll just set up the combo, and it should be evident from there that the quest can be beaten. Okay, so for the setup, I'm supposed to choose an enemy and a plot, but I can just randomly select those when the time comes. I'm supposed to deal some underworld cards for the 4th stair. And first player is the deck with all the cards. You can't really expect to have a very good opening hand here. So I'm not even going to bother to mulligan, because the combo doesn't rely on this deck getting any specific card in their opening hand. For player 2, they've got a nice starting hand here with some draw cards, so I'm going to keep that. Let's start the game, and the first player passes, so now it's player 2's turn. I'm going to start by drawing 3 cards. And let's see. Let's draw another 3 cards. Okay. Now let's draw 2 cards. We're running low on resources. We need something like Song of Kings in order to play Legacy of Numenor. Let's draw 2 more cards. 2 more cards. Have to discard. Probably discard. Do I have any duplicates yet? I don't need 2 word of commands, so I'm going to discard that and play another Darren's Runes. And discard the second horn. And we might be out of draw options now. We didn't get the Song of Kings. Hopefully we'll get it with the Peace and Thought next turn. Okay, so now we gotta commit to the quest. So player 1 will commit, let's see, 5. Player 2 will commit 2. So we got a total of 7. Alright, now let's reveal some encounter cards. Okay, well we kinda got lucky there. Immediately end the quest phase. Okay. Now normally we probably would have some more difficult cards come up in the staging area, but really at this point you're just trying to stay alive. You don't really need to kill any enemies or anything. Just trying to stay alive until the combo gets running. So if there are enemies, that's fine. You can defend, or you could even lose a hero. You can lose like Glorfindel or Bilbo. Okay. So let's go into the refresh phase. And play some Peace and Thought. These 5 cards should help us. We did get a Song of Kings. Some more draw cards. Okay, good. So let's start the next turn. And now player 2 gets an extra card from Bilbo. Gonna play the Song of Kings down. And Legacy of Numenor. So now we've got approaching 40 threat, which is good. And we have a few more Doom cards we can use. Let's see, first gonna draw with Barevor. Oh good. Some more cards. Let's grab 4 more cards for 4 threat. Now we could play Legacy of Numenor again. I just want to check to see if I've played all my Deep Knowledge yet. Yeah, I've played it all. So we need Legacy of Numenor to get up to 40. Now let's see if we have the pieces for the combo. Let's play down a Song of Battle. And let's see. And a Song of Travel. Okay, so now Biffer's got every kind of resource available to him. And we can also play Legacy of Durin down. Okay. And also Horn of Gondor. Okay, now that Horn of Gondor is here, we can start by passing message, using Message of Elrond, to pass word of command over to the first player. Now the first player can take control of this and use word of command with Gandalf. And what will we search for? This might take a while. Loading. So I did take out a bunch of neutral cards. So there shouldn't be many neutral cards or spirit cards in this deck, because if you ever hit 3 of them in a row with Emery, then you get stuck. Okay. I can search. Computer's having a tough time handling this. Okay. So we found Emery. Let's close and shuffle our deck. And this can go back in the discard. Okay, and let's play Rallying Cry now, using Biffer's resources. So let's put this up here to show that it's currently in play during this phase. And player 1 can now put Emery into play and discard the top 3 cards of my deck. 1, 2, 3. And as you see, we got some tactics cards, so that means Emery is gonna have to go in the discard, but instead of going in the discard, she actually comes back to my hand. And because an ally left play, we get to trigger Horn of Gondor. So now Biffer has a resource. I think you can start to see where this is going. Okay, so we play Emery again. Discard 3 more cards. And what do you know? Emery comes back to our hand. And Biffer gets a resource. Okay. So I don't think you want to see me discard the rest 3 by 3. So let's just assume I keep playing Emery over and over again. Let's take a look at all our cards in our deck. And see if we end up discarding the whole deck. The odds of like the dozen or so spirit cards I put in there actually forming a row of 3 are pretty unlikely. And, even if that does happen, this deck also plays Born Aloft to bounce Emery back. Okay, so let's just look through here. As you can see, the spirit cards are pretty scarce. Da-dee-da-dee-da. Okay. So it's a huge deck. I never thought such a large deck, or a deck such as this, would be playable. But it turns out to be pretty powerful, because now Emery discards every card in the deck. So let's move all of these to the discard pile. Okay, so they're all in the discard pile now. And so we discarded 800, I think it was like 821 cards or something like that. Which means Emery was used about 273, 274 times. So that means we can go over to player 2 and put like 200 resources on Biffer. Oops, wrong thing. Okay, here we go. Okay. You know what? Let's pretend we're multiplying by 10 here. So this means that Biffer's got something like 270 resources. Okay. So now this deck can go ahead and draw the rest of their deck. And they do that. Let's see. Pay 1 resource. I don't know if I should even bother ticking this down at this point. I mean, 270, barely making a dent in that. So let's just draw 3. Okay. And looking for actually a certain card to help me draw the rest. Actually, Emery shouldn't be in play anymore. Emery should be back here. Okay. Okay, so actually now this deck wants a certain card in here, the Earbore Hammersmith. So I'm gonna go play Emery myself. Discard 3. Okay, I found it. But I'm gonna keep doing that. So I get a resource every time I do. I'm just gonna discard my deck. And okay, let's see. Let's see. Actually, you know what? What do I want here? I want Desperate Alliance. Okay. To get Desperate Alliance, what we're gonna do is play the White Council and what I get to do is shuffle one card from my discard pile back into my deck. Okay. So let's shuffle back in Desperate Alliance. And let me think. So I want to pass Biffer to the other player. So that's why I want Desperate Alliance. But the other player, okay, the other player goes once. What I would also like is okay. I could play White Council again and shuffle in. Oh, you know what? Instead of doing that, I'm actually going to move Erebor Hammersmith back into my deck here. I think that makes more sense, because now I can play the other White Council, and I'm going to actually draw the card. And the other player is going to use that White Council to shuffle back in their own Erebor Hammersmith. Okay. Okay, here we go. We get to shuffle back in a Hammersmith, and actually I'm going to have player 2 play another White Council. So player 1 will also shuffle back in Born Aloft. Take a Born Aloft back in here. Okay. Yep, good there. So we've played all three of our White Councils. One of them was to get Erebor back in here, and then another one was to draw Erebor and have the other player put their Erebor back in, and then the third one was to have this player put back in their Born Aloft. Okay, so now we play Will of the West, the first Will of the West. Again, spending resources from Biffer, who can play resources of every type. And we shuffle back in our cards here. Now to draw them all up, we just repeat this pattern. We play Erebor Hammersmith, and since it's a dwarf, we trigger Legacy of Durin to draw a card. Then we play Born Aloft, bring Erebor back to our hand. We actually gain a resource from Horn of Gondor, and Born Aloft goes back in our discard pile. So that process, we repeat it again. So we pay 2 for Erebor, return Born Aloft to our hand, from Erebor's effect, play Born Aloft. Actually, sorry, trigger the Legacy of Durin, and then play Born Aloft, and return discard. So as you see, we pay 2 each time to play Erebor Hammersmith, and we gain 1 when it comes back. So we spend a net of 1 resource, and every time we gain a card from Legacy of Durin. So basically we can convert whenever we want 1 resource into 1 card. Do that as much as we want. So I'm going to pay 30 or 28 resources just to draw the rest of my deck. And as I said before, this means he's got like 270 resources. So let's say we just spend another 30, draw up our whole deck. Alright, we're getting there. So I believe in this deck I have a card, where is it? Lorien's Wealth somewhere. There we go. So I can play that, spend another 3 resources, and have player 1 draw 3 cards. So now we've got our Born Aloft and our Hammersmith on this side. And let's see. Now, I think we can go ahead and play Will of the West again, but this time on player 1. So now player 1 gets to shuffle all into their deck. And it's pretty much set up. So now player 2 just uses Desperate Alliance and passes Bifur and all the songs and the Legacy of Durin and the Horn of Gondor over to player 1. And now player 1 can, whenever they want, they can convert, because they've got these 2 cards, they can convert 1 resource into 1 card. And so you can convert these like 240 resources into 240 cards. Then you'd be out of resources. But you could keep playing Emery over and over and over again, and you keep getting a resource because she's free to play, and you get a resource every time she leaves play. So between Emery getting resources and this combo getting cards, you can balance it however you want. Like you could, what I would probably do is I would probably start using these resources to draw cards until I draw one of my spirit cards that I put in there, like Dwarven Tomb or Will of the West, or I think it's the map, the spirit map, because that will allow you to just play Emery and discard your whole deck, and then find one of the 3 Will of the Wests in there. So, for example, let's just look at my deck here. Yeah, so as you can see, like we've gotten to the point where you can draw like 1,000,000 cards and get 1,000,000 resources, and they're all on Bifur, who has all the songs. So you could play pretty much whatever you want. Like all the lore cards, the leadership cards, the tactics cards at least, are in here. And I mean, you should be able to win at that point. You could have an army of, 50 or 60 allies. You could, put all the outlands into play. There's really, playing the rest of this game might be kind of dull at this point. You could even throw in some Galadrim's Greetings if you're worried about not being able to beat the quest in the next few turns. That would work. You can throw quite a few spirit cards in this deck with no danger of hitting 3 in a row. And even if you do, there's Born Aloft to bring Emery back. It's taking a while to that's the one downside to this. This kind of deck would be impossible to play with actual cards, I think. I don't know anyone who would want to constantly shuffle this thing. Or break apart every deck in their collection in order to build it. Did it freeze on me? Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'd have to draw quite a few cards. And then here. So after about, 50 cards, so I draw the first 50 using 50 resources and get the Dwarven Tomb. And then just play Emery over and over again, discard the rest of the, 700 cards, and get another like 100 and almost 200 resources. And then I had plenty of resources to pay for a bunch of allies, attachments, whatever. And then I could just use Dwarven Tomb on Will of the West and repeat it all over again. Like draw up until you get one of these spirit recycling cards. And yeah, just do that over and over again. So there's 3 of the Will of the West in this deck, so you can repeat it 3 times. You could probably draw up, at least 400 cards, 500. After your 3rd time through, you might have enough resources to draw your entire deck, and have plenty left over to play whatever you want. Yeah, you can literally like put in every ally in the game, every non-spirit ally in the non-spirit, neutral ally in the game. And if you can't win at that point, then yeah, I'm not sure what you should do. Oh, I missed. So these neutral cards shouldn't be in here. But again, as I said, you can afford to dilute it quite a bit. Actually, even cards like Bilbo's, I just realized this, but cards like Bilbo's Sphere, I think they also dilute it a bit. Like if you hit 3 of those, Emery would stay in. But the odds are pretty small. I like to just make the deck as big as possible so that Emery, every time through, generates hundreds of resources. It allows you to play whatever you want. You could put all the traps down in the game. You could play Gildor's Council every turn so that you only reveal 1 card each turn. You could scry. You could probably filter through a lot of the bad cards in the encounter deck with all your scry cards. Yeah, you can I mean, there are so many cards in this deck. You should be able to handle pretty much any situation that comes out. The only tricky part was surviving until the second turn. I haven't played this enough to know that it's always the second turn, but generally once player 1 gets that Peace and Thought for the extra 5 cards, they can pretty much chain this combo together. So yeah, again, maybe this deck is not so fun to play, but I just thought it was a fun combination that I stumbled across, and yeah, obviously extremely powerful, but I don't know how much fun you would actually have playing the game in this way. Maybe once, just to play all the cards. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.